Okay, we had a rally. It fizzled out. We've got Powell speaking tomorrow. There could be some volatility surrounding that. Dow was down 19 points after a rally fizzled out. The S&P was well over 30 points higher at the highs, and it ended up almost 9 points, up 0.14%. Still closing above 6,300 at 6,305. Nasdaq up 0.38%, up 78 points. The Russell was down 0.40%. The VIX was up 1.46% to close 16.65. The next 2 weeks are extremely important. We've got a boatload of earnings coming down the pike. We've got the Fed meeting in a week and a half. We've got Trump's tariff deadline there to kick off the new tariff rates on August 1st. It's just a lot of things for the market to digest. This week, we're going to have some important earnings. After the bell on Wednesday, we'll get Tesla and we'll get Alphabet. Tomorrow, before the market opens, or at 8:30 a.m. Eastern Time, we're going to have Powell speaking. Could have some volatility tomorrow, depending on what Powell says. People saying that Trump's going to fire Powell. These are rumors. We don't know if they're true. And again, the legal experts, the so-called legal experts, are debating whether Trump could even fire Powell. People saying yes and some people saying no. We'll leave that for the legal experts to fight among themselves. Again, just continuing to monitor this. Could this be a catalyst? Powell has referred to criminal prosecution for perjury for lying to Congress by Representative Luna. Apparently, other members of Congress are going to join her. See what becomes of all this, but this is going to be the first time Powell's going to be speaking publicly since last week's referral for criminal prosecution for lying Congress surrounding renovation and all this other stuff we've been watching in the news. See what happens with Powell speaking tomorrow. My momentum signals are bullish. My swing trend signals are bullish. That's likely not going to last very much longer, but my signals remain bullish. Just because I'm looking for a top doesn't mean I've called a top yet. Some people only hear what they want to hear. Signals, that's why I got to say it over and over. My signals remain bullish. Looking for a top, you must be bearish. No, my signals remain bullish. Divergences may not be done yet. It could be coming to a conclusion if this topping tail amounts to anything or not. The momentum line is still bullish at this point. I told you we still could see momentum here turn back up and end up forming a divergence in this most recent price action. It may not be done yet, is what I'm trying to say. And again, having multiple points of bullish divergence. Signs that we may see momentum flip here soon. So far, momentum remains bullish. That blue line right there is the momentum line. We've had green bars all the way up here, and again, momentum is still bullish. Green signals still bullish. We're going to get a solve. We'll see momentum signals turn bullish, the momentum line, get a bearish reversal of conditions, and then we'll see the trend signals begin to turn bearish with that or right after that. Still bullish. Now, because of all the people that were bearish down here now being bullish, I posted this the other day, be bullish when everyone is depressed. How they were down here, and be bearish when everyone is euphoric. To play on Warren Buffett saying, be greedy when everybody is fearful and be fearful when everybody is greedy. True. So again, signals still bullish here. Again, trend signals are going to change once we see momentum change, and that could happen this week. Next week with the Fed and the tariffs, we'll be watching closely. Boatload of earnings now kicking off here. Signals still bullish. Please support the channel with the link directly below that allows me to be able to provide you this information. If you like the charts, if you like the indicators, please let me know that by supporting the channel today. If you take a moment to do that, I would really appreciate it. I just ask that you do that because I don't want sponsors. I turn those offers down because I don't want to sell you anything. So I just ask that you partner with me and help out. Do what you can to help out. But just follow the link. It'll take you to a secured site and you can donate any amount you want. If you do that, I thank you. I'm watching the upper Bollinger Band very carefully on the S&P and the Nasdaq. The S&P, it's turning down here. Sometimes you tag it, other times you jump above it. Here we had jumped above it over here, and then we have gone sideways. Could be the tagging of the upper Bollinger Band or coming close to it as we did today could mark a peak for the stock market. We came towards it today, did get a bearish topping tail in the form of a gravestone doji. I saw something similar over here, but we still inched a little higher. And I'm watching to see, do we complete these divergences? Do we get a top? Possible it's done. I'm minded to that, but it still may be under construction. Watching closely. Do we tag that upper band, or is it close but no cigar? Nasdaq came to just underneath that band. Do we end up overthrowing it or tagging it? Or today, is it close but no cigar? And we start seeing evidence of a downturn. But the upper Bollinger Bands are directly overhead. Something worth paying attention to. S&P 500 and the Nasdaq. And signals remain bullish. If we get a top, we got to see momentum flip, and then we got to see trend signals like this flip. The cloud flipping back to red, the bars flipping back to red like we did back in February. So I'll be watching the rising wedge here. Is this done? Do we buy a few more days? Are the divergence is complete, or do we buy just a little bit more time? Watching today's gravestone doji to see what becomes of it. S&P daily here. When I predicted the bottom in April, I told you Trump was either going to pause the tariffs or pause and reduce them. I was correct. And he ended up, if he paused the reciprocal tariffs, reduced them to a baseline rate of 10%, the tariffs were going to mark a bottom. These tariffs are likely going to be associated with the top, or term top, because I still think we're going to go higher. The herd does everything backwards. Down at the bottom, the bears were, telling us we were about to crash. Tariffs were going to put the economy into the next Great Depression. We were already in a recession, and you had the doom and gloom. And I told you we were bottoming, and we were going to rally up to new highs. So I was right. Same people that were bearish down at the bottom, now they're very, very bullish. Trump's going to chicken out. He's going to pause the tariffs again. Shrugging off all the tariff letters, the new tariff rates, and betting, it's not going to happen. I'm telling you, this whole tariff business is going to be coming to a conclusion. The Trump administration, according to Bessent here, and Commerce Secretary, Treasury Secretary, according to these folks that are dealing with this whole tariff thing, exactly what I told you they're doing. They're putting pressure. Remember when they first gave us the extension here, the 3-month pause? They delayed it, and I told you announcing this because they're trying to put pressure on countries to come to the table, hammer out a deal, so we can have their. The media is telling us, tariffs. They want tariffs. Tariffs. They wouldn't negotiate, and they just put in tariffs and leave them alone. They're putting in tariffs so they can get deals, remove tariffs in the United States that are in place by other countries. Trump's tariffs are a bargaining chip. I told you, eventually, either a country is going to have a tariff or they're going to have a deal. One or the other. The whole thing's going to come to a conclusion. Third doesn't get this. Third is 3 steps behind. When I was telling you that Trump was going to pause the tariffs and reduce them, we'd see a bottom. The herd thinks, that's going to be the same. It's going to be the same. That was then. This is now. This whole narrative of the internet, Trump's going to chicken out. These people do not understand Trump. The very people super bearish at the bottom are now super bullish here at what is likely going to be a short-term top in an overall topping process for our blow-off top. If the Trump administration does not delay this date, then we could see a tariff sell-off. That could be a catalyst or part of a catalyst for the sell-off. The herd now thinks that we're not going to have the tariffs. Date is likely going to stick for at least now. Might be paused on some countries that are trying to work out a deal, but a lot of countries are dilly-dallying, and this is a wake-up call. Again, herd doesn't believe this. Might be getting a reality check here in the next week and a half or so. And I'm continuing to watch the Dow to see if it attempts to make a new high or not. Going to be watching to see if we get this divergence here on the Awesome Oscillator, the most recent price action. Got a lot of earnings here in the next 2 or 3 weeks here. Can we make a new high on the Dow before the Fed or before Trump's tariffs kick in on August 1st? Same thing on the S&P 500. S&P 500 has some red oscillator bars, but we've not gone negative yet. And if we end up getting some green bars, get closer to that upper Bollinger Band, and still might in the daily time frame, and still try to reach, at least attempt to reach the upper boundary of the rising wedge. We'll be watching. Right now we're back testing the previous trend line. I'll show you that chart in this video. Sell off immediately. Well, get yourself a back test. You got to see momentum begin to flip. You got to flip the cloud here to red. You got to flip the bars back to red. Some green here. We don't have to. We could just get a lower high with red and still end up going negative. But you still could see some green here. You still could see the MACD turn back up as it did back at the February top. We did get the green bars on the NASDAQ. Again, we got a lot of tech earnings now coming down the pike here. We'll be watching the NASDAQ. Diversions now complete here or very near future. We've got this larger divergence over here with the highs over here. Had a little divergence there. So you're getting this multiple point diversions. Get the same thing on the MACD. So we'll be watching to see if this comes to a conclusion here. In order for that to happen, we got to see. So in order to flip momentum and then change the trend signals, we've got to drop below the 10-period moving average. You got to drop below the lower boundary of the cloud, flip it back to red. Let me just adjust this so you can see it a little better. Flip it back to red, and then flip the bars back to red. Again, we briefly did it here. I told you none of my signals flipped to bearish. Trending signals flipped to bearish when we flip momentum right there. Predicting new highs on NASDAQ and S&P, we saw momentum flip right back to bullish, and it's forming this larger divergence that I've been talking about. The rally that I predicted to new all-time highs back at the bottom is going to come to a conclusion. Now, my signals, which are correct, remain bullish. I'm telling you, if we're going to flip, we got to see momentum flip, and then we got to see the trend signals begin to flip. That's likely going to happen soon. NASDAQ has these green bars. We don't have it yet on the Dow and the S&P. We don't have to get it, but it's just something worth watching. Now, if the S&P 500 is peaking, it's back testing. We back tested. We broke this trend line right here from this low right here. We broke it. We came down. We got a bottoming tail, and then we're back testing. So if we end up starting seeing evidence that the divergences are completing, we need to take out the 10-period moving average. We need to see momentum signals turn bearish, get a reversal of conditions, momentum line turn bearish, and then that needs to spill over into the swing trend signals, and they need to turn bearish if we're going to get the bigger sell-off. Right here, we're bouncing off of the cloud. We went down to the 20-period. We bounced. I redrew the trend line, excluding the shadow here, or we can include it. Still have a nice looking rising wedge. The question is, can we make it to the upper boundary? Do we stall at this trend line here? Possible gravestone doji today. Candlesticks are meaningless unless they get confirmation and a follow through. So again, we would have to take out the 10-period moving average and start seeing signals turn bearish. We still have these divergences. We have more recent price action here on the RSI. Here's a daily chart up close. Here's today's candle up close. You can see it's a gravestone doji. It has to be confirmed and then get a follow through if this is going to mark a top. Back testing that other trend line that I've been talking about. This is a peak right here. We need to see evidence of that. Here's the NASDAQ up close. And again, at some point we're going to get a pullback, likely towards the 200-period moving averages. We're likely going to resume the advance, complete the blow-off top. Again, we're in the final phase of the blow-off top. NASDAQ's now risen 40%, almost 41% since I called the day of the bottom, only dropping 25%. If I bring up the S&P real close here, you can see, again, we're back testing this trend line, possibly, again, a topping tail in the form of a gravestone doji. Still, if we can get above this level in the next few days, it's still possible we reach this upper boundary of the rising wedge or attempt to move towards it. That's still possible. But right now, I think we're either wrapping up wave 3 or about to wrap up wave 3. We have 5 intermediate waves here, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 that we're wrapping up here, coming to a conclusion to complete primary wave 3. Then we'll get primary wave 4, eventually primary wave 5, and complete the cycle top. Again, the rising wedge could be done without reaching that upper boundary if we start to break the 10 period, start to break this trend line right here from this low. If I make it a little bit smaller, you can see the RSI with it. We've got this divergence. Maybe it's done, maybe it's not. Again, well, I believe a top is about to form. It may not be done yet. If we start seeing evidence of that with momentum flipping, it's likely done. We've got the MACD still rolling over. Form a divergence, a multiple point divergence, as I've talked about. We'll try to reach the upper boundary. We still may attempt to see it go back up. It may just have a bearish signal that remains. And again, either back testing here or trying to go a little higher. It doesn't have to turn back up, but it very well could. Stochastic, same thing. If it starts rolling over, then maybe that's all she wrote. But right now, you still got the possibility here as we go into the earnings this week, as we Fed Chair Powell speaking tomorrow, still got a shot at going a little bit higher. But we did get a gravestone doji, so we'll be watching to see what becomes of that candle. Every candle that forms plays out. We have to get confirmation, and if we get confirmation, then we need to start seeing momentum begin to flip. So this divergence here, it may not be done yet. We'll be watching for clues. So given we've gotten a gravestone doji today in the daily time frame, I've put a question mark here in the 60-minute time frame. Again, you'd have to take out the 10 period in the daily time frame, get a bearish reversal of conditions, take out the 50 here. So I got a little question mark there. I've got this blue arrow going up here, possibly going a little bit higher. We did go a little bit higher with today's rally on the RSI. Previous peak, I was watching to see if we get a divergence there. So again, we still may form one right here and pull back here, and then still end up going higher and getting a divergence right here. We did go higher than the previous peak, so there's no divergence in the most recent price action. Still may see it, but you've got this multiple point divergence that is under construction here. Maybe it's done. Still the possibility we buy a few more days here. Again, you've got the same type of divergence going on here with the MACD. So again, we'll see what becomes of our gravestone doji on the S&P 500. Really didn't get one on the Nasdaq, so watching to see what happens as we important earnings this week. Fed Chair Powell speaking, move closer to Trump's tariff deadline for the launch of the new tariff rates come August 1st. Now, today's gravestone doji on the S&P 500, we gapped higher here in the 5-minute time frame. We formed this divergence right here, and we ended up selling off, coming back towards gap support by the end of the session, and that gave us the gravestone doji. You got a gap fill down here. We're right under the 200 period moving average. So again, going to be watching what the market does surrounding Powell's speech, Powell's comments, volatility or a sigh of relief. We'll see what happens. Does Powell answer questions about a member of Congress referring him to the DOJ for perjury charges? Does he not say anything about it? All the speculation, rumors about Trump going to fire him. Does he even say anything about that? I don't know. But we've come back towards a gap fill, and we're right resting at the 200 period moving average in the 5-minute time frame. This divergence in the 15-minute time frame, we're right at just under the 50 and right at the cloud there. So again, we'll be watching. Do we build upon this and get a larger divergence? What becomes of the gravestone doji in the daily time frame? Can we get above that trend line and back testing, try to go towards the upper boundary of the rising wedge or not? NVIDIA has peaked surrounding this trend line. Right above this area is the trend line in the longer term weekly time frame. Video is down 0.60%, down $1. If we have peaked and we begin to sell off, we have wave 4, then again, Nasdaq and S&P will likely follow suit. We are completing wave 3 or about to. think we get wave 4 and 5. NVIDIA is forming a massive broadening formation, risen 102% since I called the bottom after dropping 43%. It's got this negative divergence. Now look at this carefully. Again, look at the MACD. MACD is moving higher. It's based on moving averages, but look at the price oscillator. It's forming a divergence. We have the stochastic rolling back over. It's rolled over several times. It's remained at extremes for an extended period of time, but at some point you're going to see this begin to play out. So again, has NVIDIA peaked now? And if it has, the Nasdaq and S&P 500 is right behind NVIDIA. Nasdaq doing the exact same thing S&P did. Again, we hit this trend line. We broke this trend line right here. Hang on, it moved slightly. Sometimes when you hit save on these charts, the trend lines move on you. The trend line from the low to this level here, we broke it, and we're back testing it right now. Still could inch up a little bit closer towards this upper boundary. Certainly possible. Don't want to rule that out. If we're going to turn, we got to take out the red line, the 10 period. We got to take out the cloud, the 20 period moving average. We got to break the other trend line that moved on me. Let me fix that. I love these charts, but sometimes you hit save on a trend line and it moves on you, and it drives me nuts. Nevertheless, I digress. Again, we could be done here with this back test, could inch a little bit higher, but again, I am expecting a pullback. We very well could begin it this week. Moving towards the Fed meeting, we're moving towards Trump's tariff deadline. We're going to see the tariffs, new rates on the tariffs be launched. And I think these 200 period moving averages will eventually be tested. We have a gap over here. We have a gap down here. Just some levels to be watching. I think we've got wave 3 either completing or about to complete. And then I think you're going to get your wave 4. It is done here. We've got to see evidence of that. Signals are still bullish. Momentum is still bullish. Trend signals are still bullish. You can clearly see the rising wedge patterns are breaking down from the rising wedges. We start some of these divergences play out, then we could see a sell-off begin. The MACD has rolled over. It may turn back up. It may not. As I pointed out on the S&P, and let me just go back to the S&P just quickly right here. The S&P, look what happened over here. We had this rollover with the MACD, and then it turned back up, and it went up for a couple of days, just a little bit higher to the February high, and then you turn. Do we get something like that here? Maybe. Rule it out. We'll be watching to see what becomes of this gravestone doji. Fake out, or is it the real deal Don Steele? We'll see what happens. We'll rule out something like this. And again, we ended up turning back up, and we went a little bit higher than this level, but you still ended up getting a divergence lower than the peak over here from the December high. You could see something very similar to that here, where we have the peak over here in May. These other divergences form, but we still may get one right here. So we'll be watching. Does the MACD turn back above the signal line, or does it not? And we start seeing the gravestone doji play out. Regardless how it plays out, I think the time is short. We're going to see some kind of pullback, but then I think we're going to go make new highs. Could we see something similar to that here on the MACD with NASDAQ? Maybe. Same thing here for the NASDAQ 60-minute chart. I was watching closely these 60-minute charts. We had the RSI move above the previous peak. I was watching to see if we get a divergence in the most recent price action, or if we would go higher to high here, but still lower than the peak over here. We're still forming this multiple point divergence. Question mark, is it done here? We go a little higher there, marked in blue. I'm watching for the completion of wave 3 to get the wave 4. We'll see if it's done yet or not. We do have a multiple point divergence. Actually, the divergence is going to play out. Oh, it hasn't played out yet, so it's not going to. Going to end up playing out. Is it done? We could get a divergence in this most recent price action if we try to rally this week on earnings, or maybe with Powell. To sell off with Powell, then see evidence of a sell-off, of a reversal of the divergence going on here with the MACD, just like on the S&P 500. So is this done yet? We're bouncing off the 50 here in the 60-minute time frame. We bounced off the 10 in the daily. It's going to come to a conclusion very soon. It hasn't already. Going to get a rug pull. Bird's going to go, what happened? The same people that are super bullish here are the same people that were super bearish down here. I think we're going to top soon. We haven't already. Pull back, and when we do, we're going to start seeing my momentum signals turn bearish, and then we're going to start seeing the trend signals begin to turn bearish. will likely give us a Fibonacci retracement. At the bottom, I predicted that the bears were, when we come up here, they're going to say triple top or double top. Bear tell me today, try to straighten me out. Try to straighten me out there on social media. Hey, there's no way we're going to new highs. This is the top. Same people that were telling us we were going to crash down here, that this rally was never going to happen. So just keep that in mind. The bottom, and I was bullish, and I predicted a rally to new highs. I was right. Predicting a pullback, not a crash. I think it's coming. The bull market is going to come to a conclusion. I don't believe this is it. I didn't believe this was it. I believe the sell-off was it. I think we're going to see it soon, likely in the next few months. Sell-off. Going into August, we'll see some kind of bottom in all likelihood, and then probably rally to get the final phase of the blow-off top. Bull rally is the final phase of the blow-off top. It would just be the final phase of it with the wave 5.